Good morning, this is Robert with Pioneer Smokehouses, and today we are going to cold smoke some cheese on the Masterbuilt MPS230. Now this is a propane smoker, but we will not be using the propane today. So let's start with the process that we will be using. This is a pellet smoker tray, and this one is the Amazing Smoke brand. I've been using these for quite some time, and technically, this is my third one. I have the first one around here somewhere. Oh, there it is. And I used it so much that you can see that there's a little hole in it. Oh, there we are. And the other one that I had, I sold it along with one of my smokers. This is my newest one right here, and I'm going to put some pictures up, and you can see that it's smoking right now. But here's the process of me filling it, and when you use a large bag of pellets, it's easier just to reach in there and scoop it, and then to level it off before you remove it from the bag. Then all your extra pellets just fall back into the bag. Pellets, I find, can be quite messy when you're trying to fill tubes or you're trying to do trays like this. But if you use the bag as your workspace, then it works out pretty well. For lighting it, I have a couple of different ways that I can do that. One thing that I could use is a chimney lighter. You take the chimney lighter and you just rip some pieces off of it and then stuff them down right on the inside corner here, and then get it going really good with your blowtorch. You can use the brulee torches, which what I use, or you could just use a regular propane plumbing torch. You can see this is going pretty well, so it's been going for a few minutes. I went ahead and started this up before I brought the camera outside, and it's going exactly the way we want. So now that you see how well it's going, I'm going to go ahead and set it down in here, but I'm going to leave the door open. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that the vent is open 100%. We want to encourage the smoke to start flowing. We want a little bit of temperature in there to get everything moving correctly, because the temperature will create the airflow that we need. One thing that's important with these trays is that we don't suffocate them. So we're going to leave this open as much as possible until we're ready to actually start smoking. You can already see smoke coming out, but the flow will get a little bit better as it works more. Something that you can do rather than close the door is you can place a piece of tinfoil over this sheet, which will allow a lot of extra air to come in and will still keep the main flow of the smoke going up. We don't need 100% of the smoke. That's why I'm not a big fan of overthinking your ceiling. But we do want to get a nice smoke flow, and you can see we're already getting that. So the next thing, we're going to talk about the cheese really quick. I use generic cheese. I'm not using anything fancy, because what's fancy is what we're going to do to it. Now I have a bunch of cheddar today, and I was able to get this cheddar without costing much. And then I have my favorite, which is Swiss. And when I say my favorite, I like Swiss all around, but I really like it when it's smoked. I have taken the Swiss and I bought it in the blocks where it comes together about like that, and then I just cut it in half, because I want to be able to use one piece. The other pieces will be sealed, and then I'll be able to use one piece until it's gone. Usually, if I'm eating crackers, it'll be 2 sittings. But if you're using for party, you'll use like 3 or 4 or whatever. But the nice thing about cutting them small does 2 different things. First of all, it increases the surface area, so smoke gets all around the cheese. And the other thing that it does is like I was just talking about, it creates a small enough piece that you can vacuum seal it and have fresh cheese and not worry about it. If you're going to leave it in your refrigerator for a short period of time, you could throw it in a Ziploc bag and try to get as much of the air out as you can. If you're going to leave it in your refrigerator for up to a month, you'll be fine. Even if you vacuum seal it, it's even better. If you go more than that, you'll want to freeze it. The one downside to freezing is it does change the texture of your cheese just a little bit, but when you go to use it, de-thaw it in the back of your refrigerator, and probably the upper section where it's the warmest in your refrigerator. Next thing I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about the grill mats. Now, everybody knows that watches this channel that this is absolutely my favorite accessory. And If you don't have grill mats, buy yourself a package. They come in multiple different sizes. This is one of the large ones, and this works really good on the propane grill. But remember not to go over temperature because it will mess up the coating and you'll end up having to throw your grill mat away. This one I think is rated for 550 degrees. It says it right on the package. Most of them are rated to 600. I would probably, if I were giving advice, I would tell people just to err on the side of, say, about 500 degrees, and then just don't take the chance of ruining it. And maybe later in the video I'll show you what one looks like when it's ruined. So these are, you can cut these to size. And if you're using something like the Little Chief or even this one here, you're gonna need it a little bit smaller. Now, we can't fit all those on one, or I would just use one of the ones I have pre-cut for the Little Chief. And I'll show you that in a second. But what we're gonna do here is we're gonna take this and we're gonna measure it. And so it's 17 inches. So that's gonna be 8.5 inches across. And then we'll just find that spot. And these are my regular kitchen shears, and boy, these things work great. If you don't have a pair of kitchen shears, you should. The best thing these are for is for spatchcocking a chicken. You can just run right through both sides of the backbone and just destroy it. So I got this at 8.5. And because these are little squares, once you cut one, you'll just be able to cut right between them, and you don't need to hold the measuring tape. There we go. We have two pieces that are going to fit in here just fine. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open this. Now this is the one that's fit for the size for the Little Chief, and I'm going to show you that. So you have these here and then this one here. So it's just a little bit different in shape, and these ones, if I had a better fit, I would have cut them more square, but because it's 17 inches, you've got to work with what you have. Now this is the garbage tray from the last cook, and I always put in a tray to pick up all of the drippings, so that way I don't have to clean the smoker, and then I just throw this straight into the garbage. I'm going to set this aside. And I'm going to go ahead and flip these for now, but I'll need to clean this later. It was too hot when I was done. I find with these small trays, and the same with the Little Chief, that I just throw them in the dishwasher. So if they don't come out completely clean when I'm done, then I scrub them. Other than that, I don't bother. It might be laziness, but it works. So put these on the top two shelves, and I'm going to start by loading in these smaller pieces on the bottom here. Like to lay them down if I can. So I don't know if you can see that, but I'm going to go ahead and load the other one, and then I'll take a picture and pop that up on the screen. So you can see there's a little bit of spacing all the way around, and let me go ahead and take that picture while we're talking. So, and you can see it in the picture, but I'll also talk about it here, is that you see there's a little bit of a gap between each one, and that's going to allow for good airflow, so that way we get smoke to penetrate all sides of the cheese. And that's really what we're going for. That's what's going to take this cheese from average everyday cheese to a special gourmet treat. Also, if you wanted, you could put a flavoring on the cheese. I'm going to go ahead and close this while we're talking. And when I say a flavoring, what I'm talking about is like you could put smoked paprika on the outside. That would be really good. Smoked paprika is the best thing in the world. But anyway, so what I'm really talking about is any kind of coating, like a Szechuan coating, or let's say just sesame seeds. Right now it just totally escapes me, but even like dried garlic, if you were to wet that just lightly, the dried chipped garlics, and then just spread it on a piece, then you would be able to have that. Another thing that you could do is you could take sliced almonds and press it into it. You might want to warm your cheese up a little bit. And when I say warm it, I don't mean heat it up. I mean set it on top of the stove while the oven's on low for a couple of minutes just to get it a little soft. The heat from the oven will warm your cheese just a little bit on the surface. That way you'll be able to do that. I like to leave softer cheeses in my refrigerator overnight unwrapped. Like if I'm gonna do mozzarella smoked, I will unwrap it the night before I go to bed and just put it up on the top shelf in the fridge. By doing that, it creates a little bit of a dry outside layer, which helps it hold together. Mozzarella has one of the lowest melting temperatures. That's why it is so great on pizza. But the downside to that is that it just will pull up anything over 80 degrees. Right in the 80-degree range is where your cheese starts to get soft. What we're going for is anything under 90 for something like cheddar. If you go above 90, cheese is gonna start to slump and it's gonna go right through the grill rack. If we look here, you can see that this stuff is going through really well. One of the downsides to checking your temperature is that this thermometer doesn't really start until 100 degrees. Now you can see it's in the black section right here, or maybe you can't see that, but I can see it's in the black section, so it's not giving you an actual reading at this point. If you have a digital thermometer, you could put it in there. Something that I tend to do is I will take my instant read thermometer, and instant read thermometers in air don't work very well, but they will work. What you'd want to do is either find a hole, like you could remove one of the handles or drill a single hole into the top of your smoker, and then it'll stick right in there. Another option is to leave it in the vent port. So it's sitting in the vent just like that. If you can get it to stay in there, then you'll be able to get a reading. With this one, it has a little magnet on the back. So if I do that, I don't know if you can see that, but the magnet is actually sticking to the cooling rack, and so it's stuck in there. And in a few minutes, I'll be able to get a temperature reading. Remember that an instant read thermometer only works when it has solid contact with the surface. So that means to get an air reading, it's gonna take a long time for it to stabilize. I would give it about 5 minutes and then go ahead and trust the reading from there. It looks like we're ready to just let this roll. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this closed a little bit. I don't want it closed all the way, but I wanna reduce the influence of outside air. So what I'll do is I'll close it and leave the latch down so it gives it a little bit of a gap to allow a little bit of air in, but keeps wind from blowing stuff around. And I'll just watch this and make sure that the smoke is coming out. If it were to die out, I just want to relight the thing and make sure that I monitor the air supply. One thing about the propane smokers, because of where the element is down below, there's a lot of airflow right around the element for the burner, and that will help us out. The air, once it's rising consistently, will rise through that opening and right up into our pellet tray. So we're gonna actually smoke these for around 6 hours. If you use bigger chunks, I would recommend a longer smoke time. If you use small things, like one of my favorite things is to buy a bag of cheese nuggets from the grocery store and just spread them out and smoke them, and they make great hors d'oeuvres for parties. That is something that you can do in an hour, and then do it the day before for an hour and then set it aside. If you do it a week before, it'll be better, but you can do it the day before and just have a little bit of smoky bitterness to it. But if you don't over smoke it, it doesn't matter. We are using pecan chips today, or pecan pellets today. I also recommend that you use a medium wood when smoking cheese. If you want something fruity, you can use fruity. And if you're gonna rest it longer, you can use something strong like hickory or even mesquite. But I try to avoid mesquite for cheese. I think I've covered pretty much everything. We will see you in a couple of seconds. For me, it'll be somewhere around 6 hours. Well, we are back, and it has been quite interesting weather out here, so I had to move the camera around a little bit, put the umbrella on, and then as soon as I got it all taken care of, the sun came back out. I'm sitting in my living room, looking out the window, and all of a sudden it started pouring out rain, and I'm running outside to save my camera. But here it is, so it's sunny again, and it's time to flip the cheese. I have not checked it, so we're looking at this the first time together. And it is looking great. The racks are completely cool to touch. And let's see if I can pull this off real quick. Oh, it went up. It was running at about 55 degrees when we first started it. Pull that. I'm just going to take this all the way out so I don't drop it. I would normally grab a pair of gloves, but my hands always smell like smoke anyway, so I guess it doesn't matter. There we go. We'll go ahead and slide that back in. So the cheese feels perfect. It has just the right firmness, so that way we know that it's not melting. Gonna get a little picture of it here. I'm gonna pull this one out just a little bit. I'll put that picture up there for you, so that way you can take a little look at that. And you can really see the smoke start to form on the Swiss. Sometimes the tray of pellets will actually ignite and catch fire if it's burning really, really good. And you just keep an eye on it and blow it out. I think I'll take a little picture of that for you too while we're down here. It's burned a little more than a whole row. If you look at that picture, in the back was the starting row, and that part is completely gone. That's all set up to go, and you can see that we're smoking good again. Then I want to talk to you real quick about the grill mats. This is a grill mat bag, and this is really good for things like mushrooms, and zucchini actually is really good to put in, because zucchini gets really soft. And if you take it and put it in there on a higher temperature, something like 350 or 400, you can cook zucchini in the smoker really well. I wouldn't cook zucchini at like 225. It'll just end up being mushy, and then there's no real benefit to it. But you could smoke it and then throw it in a frying pan or under your broiler for a minute on each side. The nice thing about this one is it does have snaps. It would be nice if it was a touch larger, and this is just the size that I bought. They do make a bunch of different sizes. This one here is one of the original Masterbuilt grill mats that I bought, and I overheated this one. So this is what happens when you go above 600 degrees. There's an edge all the way around it, and that edge melts off. And then in here, this is the silicone starting to come off. I just keep this around just to show you. Other than that, I would just throw it in the garbage because it's of no use anymore. So we're gonna go on for 3 more hours here. Everything looks amazingly good. And if you wanted to, you could pull it off right there if you like a light smoke. But I wanna hit it kind of hard and then rest it for a week. So for you, that'll be 1 second. For me, another 3 hours. See you then. We are on 6 hours now, and everything looks great. I have to say though, it is a little bit windy, so if the camera shakes a little bit, you'll have to forgive me. The weather has just been insane today. First thing I'm going to notice is that the temperature gauge is still in the black, so that means it's well under 100. Go ahead and open that up and give these a little touch. Make sure they're firm, and they are great. How about we take a little picture while they're still in there, and then that'll give you something to look at while I'm pulling that out. So they'll put that picture right there for you. I could take these all out one at a time, but I'd rather just go ahead and slide the whole thing out. And there we go. I'm going to pull this over here by the camera for you so you can get a little look at this tray full of cheese. That looks perfect. We'll go ahead and close this. Because we're not running any heat, I'm just going to leave the thing running and let the smoke continue to go through it. It's not going to hurt it. There's not going to be any mess or anything. And the best thing is it'll just keep the seasoning process going on this newer smoker. I would not hesitate to use a couple of these trays full of pellets to season your smoker after you do the heating process. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these pieces of cheese. I'm going to use this funny one here. I should have trimmed that off before I started. And I'm going to go ahead and cut it. This knife with the reliefs in it works really well. Now, you don't really want to eat this cheese because it'll be a little bit bitter now, and you want to let it sit for at least a week in your refrigerator before you do it. But I do want to taste it and make sure that we've got all the flavor that we want in it. The outside has the correct texture. It's a little bit rubbery on the outside edges of smoked cheese, and so that's a good sign. And I can taste the smoked flavor. I try to take the bite on the opposite side. Like I said, it's going to be a little bitter, but it's pecan, so it is really mild. All right, well, I'm really happy with this, and I will add some pictures to this video of my final process. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to throw it in there and put it in the fridge and let it rest for a while until it is completely firmed up. And then some of it I will just wrap and throw in the back of the fridge, and then the rest of it I will vacuum seal and probably give some of it away, and some of it I'll throw in the freezer. So I hope that you enjoyed the video. Down below there is some links to some articles about smoking cheese, and then there is also some affiliate links. So if you see anything that you like in the video, especially grill mats or the amazing smoke tray, those are two of my must-have accessories. Click on those and I will get compensated. I appreciate it. Again, there's some pictures of the final product. I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great day.